And as we were closing down, I gotta go.
Let's go. Hey, big, go. Let's go.
I'm sorry. They're gunfire and they're pushing me out. They're pushing me out. The security's pushing me out. Security's got me. I'm sorry. Excuse me.
They're fighting.
Good morning and welcome to AM Joy. I'm Jonathan Capehart in for Joy Reid. Joy will be joining us in just a few minutes. She's wrapping up her appearance on Meet the Press. The nation is still reeling after violence in the streets of Charlottesville, Virginia yesterday resulted in the death of a 32-year-old woman when a car plowed into a group of counter-protesters. The alleged driver, 20-year-old James Alex Fields, was arrested and charged with second-degree murder in the attack. The Unite the Right rally to protect a Confederate statue was scheduled for noon yesterday, but really ended before it began when the white supremacist protesters began fighting counter-protesters and members of the clergy. At least 35 people were injured. In addition to Fields, 3 people were arrested. Several protesters, like former KKK Grand Wizard David Duke, expressed excitement about the meaning of the rally.
This represents a turning point for the people of this country. We are determined to take our country back. We're going to fulfill the promises of Donald Trump. That's what we believed in. That's why we voted for Donald Trump, because he said he's going to take our country back, and that's what we got to do.
And in the afternoon, Donald Trump addressed the violence.
We condemn in the strongest possible terms this egregious display of hatred, bigotry, and violence on many sides. On many sides. It's been going on for a long time in our country. Not Donald Trump, not Barack Obama. This has been going on for a long, long time.
Joining me now, Jennifer Rubin, opinion writer at The Washington Post, Karine Jean-Pierre, national spokesperson at MoveOn.org, and Michelle Bernard of the Bernard Center for Women, Politics, and Public Policy. Thank you all very much for being here this morning, a very important morning. Before I throw out a stink bomb of a question, let's hear from the alleged driver in that attack yesterday and what his mother had to say. Let's take a look at that.
And again, right now he's just accused, but there was video of him running his car into the crowd. And,
running his car into a crowd of people?
Right. Yeah.
Did it hurt anybody?
Yeah, there's one fatality, and I would say 24 people have been injured.
I don't really talk to him about his, political views. I mean, so I don't really understand or what the rally was about.
How is what we just saw in the video, not the mother, but the video, the B-roll of that accident, the attack, the car plowed into those people, how is that not an act of domestic terrorism?
It absolutely is, and the president's refusal to say it is an abomination. It's par for the course. He has played footsie with the white nationalists since the campaign began. There are other Republicans who have stepped forward. Even the Attorney General, who is not known for his outspokenness on issues of race, has opened an FBI investigation and is cooperating with the U.S. Attorney in the area. So the president's refusal, indifference to this is really a low point in his presidency, which has had a lot of low points.
Michelle?
I don't know how anyone could look at what we witnessed yesterday all day long, from the beginning to the end, and not look at this as an intentional act of domestic terrorism. It was murder. It was murder on the race of race, of political ideology, of ethnicity. People were making a statement that Donald Trump promised them that they were going to take America back, and they were fulfilling Donald Trump's promise. David Duke told the nation that yesterday. If you go to any message board of some of these white nationalists and the center alt-right groups, they were all saying after the president made his very lame apology for what happened yesterday, if you want to even call it an apology, there were people who were saying that the president loves us. He didn't call us out. He loves us. They are fulfilling his prophecy. They're fulfilling what he wanted. This was their statement. This was the beginning of let's make America great again by let's making America white again.
And Karine, before I want you to respond also, but also in that shot that we showed of David Duke saying, this is fulfilling the promise of Donald Trump. How does the White House not immediately upon hearing that David Duke said that jump out and say, we are not about that. He is. We fully condemn what David Duke said.
Well, what we're seeing is Donald Trump's true colors, which is not at all surprising. He is able to attack the Gold Star family. He's able to call the press the enemy of the state, but he cannot condemn Nazis. Look, what we saw yesterday was premeditated. It was strategic, and it was done by people who strongly support Donald Trump. David Duke and all of those other 12 or so organizations that came together under the Unite the Right kind of symbol. That's what this was all about. And now they want their dear leader, Donald Trump, to stick with the promises that he's made. And let's not forget, he's been doing a lot of this stuff for the last, 8 months now. He's trying to criminalize people of color. He disenfranchises women and LGBT community. This is what he's been doing. And now I think this was the beginning of so much more. And this is why we have to stand up and fight back against this.
Before we bring in our next guest, let's show Donald Trump feigning ignorance about who David Duke is.
I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know, did he endorse me or what's going on? Because, you know, I know nothing about David Duke. I know nothing about white supremacists. And so you're asking me a question that I'm supposed to be talking about people that I know nothing about.
And now it's the perfect time for me to bring in Joy Reid, who is the anchor of AM Joy. Joy, welcome to your own home.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So we have to get your view on all this. How is this not viewed as domestic terrorism? And how is it possible that the White House does not jump out immediately and condemn what David Duke said yesterday?
Yeah, and I think that this White House would have no problem calling this terrorism if it had been a Muslim driving a car into a group of people, or a black person, if somebody that they associated with Black Lives Matter doing it, they would immediately call it terrorism instantly. So, you know, I think that is a pretty, you know, that would have been a slow pitch over home plate. But I think you have to realize when you look at Donald Trump responding to the incidents in Charlottesville, what was he doing? Reading.
Yes.
He was reading a response. You have to ask yourself, well, who was writing what he was reading? Inside of his government are people like Stephen Miller, advocates of ending legal immigration, or cutting it in half. People like Michael Anton, who has a blog or wrote about the ceaseless importation of third world foreigners, ruining the United States and ruining our democracy, making the country more liberal. You know, when you have people like Stephen Bannon in the government. So the problem is he's reading what they're writing. He has Sebastian Gorka.
And he had no passion. Like no passion, no fire and fury, no off the cuff.
Well, he did have passion once when he said
for North
on all
Korea.
sides.
All sides.
This is not about me. This is before me. Nothing to do with me.
I'm old enough to remember when Republicans used to be against moral equivalence.
Exactly.
False equivalence.
Yes. And against Nazism, because I think this country fought the Nazis in World War II.
Exactly. And someone like Orrin Hatch, the most long-term senator, comes out and says, my brother died fighting the Nazis, not to have them show up at home.
That's right.
And just so that the viewers know, I was trying to signal to the control room that I wanted element 8 to come up. But, you know, Bob Dole is someone who, I believe it was during his convention speech when he was a Republican nominee, said the Republican Party is a Big Tent party, but we have no space for people who advocate bigotry and hatred. And if you are one of those people, let me show you where the exits are. This shows just how far the Republican Party has fallen.
Ronald Reagan has done this. Both Bushes have done this. But this president, who has frankly no allegiance to any party other than Donald Trump, is incapable of doing it because he feels like these are his people. Will not confront them.
And, you know, and the thing is, you know, the Breitbart.com sort of world is very much inside of the White House. That's where, you know, see, Bannon obviously came from. That's where Sebastian Gorka came from. If you go on Breitbart, it's still posted. Milo Yiannopoulos co-wrote the Bible of what the alt-right is. One of the things they say is that traditional Republicans are failing because they equivocate and allow the charge of racism to be labeled over the simple identitarianism of white people. And that white tribalism is natural, according to them, that it is something that is gravitated toward naturally by white voters and should be, and that it is Republicans who are failing by allowing that to be called racism. So it's very obvious what the alt-right is.
I was going to say, you know, I don't know if you noticed, but yesterday, Mika Brzezinski, I think, put it perfect in a tweet where she sort of labeled the president's statement as being very weak and very limp. And even that very little limp statement that he made has really irritated and angered his base. And I just wanted to read just, one of David Duke's tweets afterwards. He was so angry, and he says to the president in a tweet, "So after decades of white Americans being targeted for discriminated and anti-white hatred, we come together as a people and you attack us." So they're angry over that, over the half, I don't want to say ass, but I'll say it. that statement that he made, if I'm allowed to say that, on cable, and they're threatening him. So what happens tomorrow? Is he going to come out and make a stronger statement? We saw so much anger. Why won't Hillary Clinton, call that, radical Islam? Well, why won't he say that this is the alt-right and there is no place for you in our nation?
And that's a very good point, Karine.
And to the Bob Dole point, George Bush, when David Duke was running for U.S. Senator as a Republican, he came out and said, "No way that we're not accepting bigotry," understanding that David Duke was the former Grand Wizard of the KKK, and he pushed back against that. But the thing also to remember is that what Donald Trump has done is he is taking a fringe group, the alt-right, a hateful, sexist, racist group movement, and normalize them. That's what he's did by having Steve Bannon, by having Gorka right in the administration, steps away from the Oval Office. And let's go back a little bit further. During the campaign, if he wasn't outright using every horrible, hateful isms out there, he was doing dog whistles, and it was to majority white audience.
Yeah,
dog whistles
and not to say nothing of birtherism.
Yes.
Which remember is what got Donald Trump to be got him his fans among the alt-right, was he was willing to indulge in this openly racist conspiracy theory. But I do have to say, and a pastor actually texted me this morning at something that I think is actually very kind of an important point, is that the Republican Party is rightly distancing themselves from what happened in Charlottesville, rightly pushing away the alt-right. But at the same time, deeds would help as well. Because you do have a party, right, that is not standing up to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act. That would be a great deed that the party could do. The party could say, you know what, we don't want to exclude immigrants from all over the world from this country. We actually don't affirm Jeff Sessions' ideas about reopening, the war on drugs and in mass incarcerating people. Some deeds would actually help the Republican Party recover, because the words are good that they've, other than Donald Trump, I think a lot of what Republicans are saying is the right thing. But, I think people of color in this country are also looking for the right to vote. Are also looking for the right to health care.
At least they are coming out now. But I have to say, I have limited patience with people like Speaker Ryan. He supported Donald Trump after Donald Trump attacked a federal judge on racist terms. He supported him after the Access Hollywood tape. What did they expect to be getting? What did they think this was going to be? So now that this is the natural conclusion of their candidate, exactly as Joy says, what are they going to do? I have two suggestions for them. One, call for Steve Bannon, Sebastian Gorka, Steve Miller to leave the White House. And secondly, call for every Confederate statue in every town and city of America to come down. The mayor of Louisiana gave an impassioned, wonderful...
Mitch Landrieu.
A wonderful speech explaining why this is not heritage, why this is a symbol that came into being. These things were put up during the 1950s and 60s as part of an anti-segregation movement, why these are not historical, why these are hateful, why they have no place in America. I'd like to see some Republicans take those steps, and then maybe they'll have some credibility on this.
And take the state troopers out of cities like St. Louis, where we see state troopers in black neighborhoods but not in white neighborhoods. Get rid of it.
Amen.
We got to end the conversation here. Thank you to Jennifer Rubin, Karine Jean-Pierre, and Michelle Bernard. Will be back. We will have much more on this story throughout the show, but up next, the latest bombshell in the Trump-Russia probe that you may have missed, but we won't let this slip quietly under the radar. And Joy gets her show back. Stay with us.
You're the best.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me, or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.